Welcome to the Music Wide Open podcast
The place for an honest and thought-provoking conversation
about music,
business,
life,
technology,
and the future,
for curious music enthusiasts.
and musicians seeking personal growth. I'm Ingolf Wunder.
And I am Paulina Wunder.
It's birds. Today we talk about good energy. Yeah, but the birds are nice. What do you think? We are in the forest. Come on.
I actually wanted to make a different intro, but life is as it is. Life can be hard. At times it presents us with countless reasons to view it as a never-ending path filled with obstacles. It can also disappoint us and make us feel helpless, worthless, and weak. We may grow tired of chasing the success we once envisioned and feel sick of not getting what we desire. In the most desperate moments, you might ask yourself, why me? Why is life so unfair? And so on. Not only does it not help, but it also pushes you into a spiral of destructive negativity. It is very easy to lose oneself in it, and nobody wants that. How to keep good energy, why it's so difficult, and why we're afraid of being positive. That's the subject for today. There are many negative people around, aggressive people, envious people. Don't you think?
Yes, and also people that don't like birds. No, but there are a lot of people who are, I would even say more people have bad energies than good energies on average. Of course, I don't know the exact numbers of it, but it feels definitely like it.
Yes. Just as a starting point, I would like to clarify one thing, because we are talking about good energy today. And someone could say now, oh, you both Wunders talk sometimes about what's going wrong. How dare you talking about good energy? You don't have it because I don't feel it, because I feel you criticize me deep down. And I must emphasize that having good energy doesn't mean accepting everything and praising everything, because that's a wrong definition of good energy. There are people, and every one of us knows this kind of people, who appear always nice, polite. They will agree with you and with someone else who says something completely different than you. But this alone is not good energy. And in some cases, in fact, it can be bad energy in disguise. Harmful, calculated. So that is very important that we start this way.
Yes, I mean, we are all living in our personal realities, and people that agree with you, even deep down they don't, might give you or one a very good feeling within your personal reality, but it is then up to you whether you keep the energy good or bad. And this is already the key word, because energy, it's everything is energy, obviously, and
we
also,
are energy.
Yeah, and from a scientific point of view, the heart and the brain generate electromagnetic fields, and this is where we feel something often way before somebody opens the mouth, and our systems are getting hints or whatever, coherence or not coherent energy way before we actually can consciously think whether somebody agreed with us or not. And I think the energy...
This is something beyond words.
Yes, and I think we have to start there, sort of, because this bad energy on this electromagnetic frequencies is so bad for the bodies, for our systems. It harms our health. It hinders us to be productive, to do great stuff. It's just not coherent and out of balance.
I think everybody will agree here that many people grow up with this pre-programmed, usually by the family or society, notion. Let's not be too positive, because if we're too positive, we will be punished. Something will go against our expectations and the disappointment will kill us. So this way we keep ourselves under constant pressure of uncertainty and disbelief. That's one thing. And then we have, on the other hand, this notion or common belief, don't be too positive because it gives you a self-confident aura, which is good, by the way. But self-confidence is often confused with arrogance, especially by insecure people. So in a way, we condition ourselves to live in doubt, and it continues.
Exactly, and one also cannot forget that bad energy is usually stress, anxiety, fear.
Caused by stress hormones.
Exactly, and it activates the sympathetic nervous system, fight or flight, right? So you don't have the time to be creative or to think about higher things or deeper things. You just are in fear that something happens to you, so you're securing yourself. So that's why you're not in balance.
How does it influence musicians? Because that's as well a very common thing.
Very much, because the opposite of that is good energy, right? It's peace, joy, love, and flow. And this is important, for example, for musicians, because the greatest music is produced when you're kind of in a flow state, and when you're kind of in a balanced state of not fearing anything, of just going there and not thinking too much and just creating. This is what you already thought before. But this flow state is only coming out of good energy.
Of course, somebody could now say something, okay, but there is so much art, so much music as well, written with bad emotion, suffering. How is that good energy?
Yes, some people could say that, but you have to be aware that suffering is a raw energy, and it becomes good or bad depending on how we process and express it. So I believe that this suffering or this sadness in music doesn't have to be a destructive, incoherent energy. It can be a very coherent or very balanced energy, and only out of this kind of
I had to ask this question because many people might think this way, that it's just it's impossible to create.
Because sadness doesn't have to be bad at all. Because it's just something sad happens to you, then you're saddened by something. But your energy, if it's coherent, it makes something good out of it, because you lost a person that you loved or something. And actually such things, although very sad at the time, can give you actually energy afterwards, because such people that you loved usually loved you back. Or
not, because you might suffer because someone didn't love you back.
I mean, I felt that myself, that even it's very sad if you lose a person that you had good feelings for or that loved you, then you can still, after the initial sadness is gone, it gives you energy, and it's actually
it can be very liberating, in fact.
And it's not a bad incident, it's and maybe out of, of course I don't know all artists' situations when they wrote beautiful or made beautiful music when they were sad or when they had a low moment in their life. That happened for sure. But I still think the key words are coherence and balance, and non-coherent or not in balance.
I think we must ask ourselves a question: who are the people who have bad energy? And especially, it is important in everybody's life, because it sort of can help us to deal with this bad energy that surrounds us, but as well in musicians' life, because I would say it's full of bad energy. Not that the musicians have it, but people around and so on. This is a common thing. I would say the people that have bad energy, these are people who are driven by their complexes. Whatever these are, because it can be, I don't have enough money, I'm not as big as I wanted to be, my private life doesn't work, my childhood was bad and I feel worse than other people because of that. And one carries on these feelings, and they sort of imprison you in this cage of inner negativity, even if one is not entirely aware of it, I feel. And one then tends to see everything or everyone through this negative lens.
Yeah, which is very normal, because you get addicted to that, right?
Yeah, you feel like a victim, and you feel like you have to fight, you have to defend yourself constantly.
Exactly, fight or flight, right?
Yes,
again, it's
exactly.
Fear. So the base energy of that is probably fear. And especially in classical music, this is amplified, that feeling, because we live in a point in time where classical music is on a very dangerous pathway. Let's put it this way.
It is.
And even if people are not aware of it, we will not go into that now because we have done that in other podcast episodes. But due to this, I think even if people are not aware of it, the subconscious feeling that something is attacking
Yes.
us as a whole, the world that we make our money in or that we live in, that doesn't make it good either, or doesn't help good energy at all, because you're defending, and this is, you're not constructive. Again, what I said, you cannot create with these energies. It's exactly this. You don't innovate usually. You don't.
But not only this, because it's not only about creation. I mean, you can create an interpretation as well, which is as well a form of creation. So that's quite relevant for musicians, for
but it's also what I meant
soloists.
there.
You cannot as well keep inspiration this way, because you are constantly, this is what I said before, you feel judged, you live in this disbelief.
Yeah.
And there are some other external influences, exactly this, that we tend to say, or we don't say it, but we feel it. I'm scared, life is a fight, a struggle, I have to survive.
Yeah, there's not enough food, so I have to
Yes,
fight for it.
and I feel that many musicians, especially soloists, or generally musicians, classical musicians, have this feeling, this constant feeling of, I need to fight.
Yeah.
I cannot be too positive, I cannot be too...
And that starts very early, because if I look back to my study times, I mean, I had different upbringing than other musicians, but I was very much aware of the environment I was in back then, and there was not a lot. There were, of course, some, and to those I was sticking. By the way, this is a good tip for any young musician now. Stick to the people that have good energy and that lift you up, in that sense that you...
Not necessarily, again, this is, I say this what I've said actually already, not necessarily these ones that are praising you only and are just very nice to you, because they can be very fake.
That's correct, but where you feel that...
They want good.
Exactly, that person is honestly happy when you do good.
Yeah.
This person is honestly happy when you play amazing. Or when
and even if he or she criticizes you.
Yeah, and sometimes that hurts as well very much, because
but you know that it's honest, that it's meant very well. Yeah. It's not fake.
But where I was going there is like, while I did then stick to the people only that did good and felt good, I was very much aware that there were many people that were not radiating that, and the majority was not. And that's already, I was like, where am I, in a way? Because, we are doing something great here, right? I mean, we are trying to do the best music. We're trying to do everything to the
honor
best.
The composers, the music, and
and we all trying our best, right? So if everybody would, in an ideal world, would lift each other up, then we would go much further, because you...
Exactly. As a collective, actually.
Yes, exactly, because it's cooperation and not, right, I mean, this Darwin, survival of the fittest versus working together, right? I think this is very much conditioned in humans generally, but when something or when a field is not having, let's say, their heyday, as classical music had in the 50s, 60s, 70s or whatever in the West, then you see that even more, that people start to defend, and that's not good energy.
This is not good energy, because then one concentrates so much on, even subconsciously, on me versus the rest of the world, or me versus that person, this person. The world is against me, nobody cares about me, nobody cares about my music. We actually heard these kind of things coming from musicians.
Yes, and it's all about really energetic signature in a way. It's of course electromagnetic, but it's the signature that it can be uplifting, positive or not. And this can be anywhere. I mean, I'm not an expert in that, but it feels sometimes like this, that if we would have a collective fingerprint and we have also a personal fingerprint that either fits or not, in that sense, it's probably so complex that we all don't understand it, but there's something to it, because at the end we feel it. There's so much, as we started earlier already to talk about, there's so much we just feel. We don't know what it is, but we see facial micro moves, we feel the energy that somebody radiates before you even speak, before you open the mouth. Because you know if somebody is good or bad, in a way, for you, right?
Yes.
And this is so amazing. If once one tunes into that, different things that one doesn't see and starts feeling them, then actually one is happier. Actually, I at least am.
Definitely, this is much better ground to build anything. And Classical musicians, this is a very specific group of people in general. I feel that many people are not very confident there, both musicians and the ones who judge them, because we have a lot of critics, promoters, managers, and so on. And this creates a perfect ground for destructive energy. So also it creates countless insecurities of musicians, because they often then will ask, am I liked? Am I disliked? We constantly look for approval. And in a way, this can make us unhappy. And this lowers our energetic potential as well and makes us negative.
Yeah, if the thing doesn't come back that we would like to have or would
Exactly.
envision. And this is also one thing I often think about, is like, you know, many people see life as a fight and as a competition, which in fact in some aspects it definitely is, because there are just many people who try to do the same thing you do, and you know, at the end some people will have a job that you would like, and you know, there is some natural competition,
or
right?
concerts that you would like,
Yeah.
and so on. So
But what I always had to think about is that in other fields other than classical music, you have sort of the common thing people are after, or the things that you have to achieve or something is sort of known. So it's, you know, you have to grow the company as big as possible, whatever, you have to sell the most tomatoes, or you have to, you know, you know,
make an exit.
You know,
Yes.
the thing that you have to do. While in classical music, and I think this is what many people feel, is that the actual core thing that we do, and I know we touch upon that quite often, but it's so important, because the actual core thing that classical musicians should do, or ideally should do, is often not known at all by those people who are deciding. And I think this makes this common kind of breeding ground for bad energy very, very big, you know.
Yeah, and on top of that, many classical musicians consider these people that decide about things incompetent, because in very many cases these are either people who have not much clue, or musicians who didn't make it themselves, and they are in a power position, and therefore the musicians that are actually doing the job, so playing, feel stuck in that negativity.
That's right, but also this goes both ways. Like some musicians that don't have it themselves will have the same feelings as some that do have it, that the
True.
others don't have. So it's a very confusing situation.
Yes.
Like, and why is it confusing? Because of this core substance of music. This got lost along the way in the decades of where it was exploited, actually, because classical music is not that old if you think it's old music, but if you think the business around it's definitely not old at all. It came with the technology, with the records and the heydays of where people actually made money with it, and now taxpayers' money. But anyway, they still do make money, but not as much as they did in the past, you know, compared to other fields of business. And I think this is the core thing. So the good energy, at least, I mean, I can certainly only talk about my personal findings or approach in energy matters. But my good energy definitely came always in the times where I didn't know anything about life. It came because I was just only caring about music. And now that I know much more about how life works, the good energy that I really do have comes from that fight's the wrong word. See, this work for the core of what music maybe should be, or at least doing my part to find out.
I think here we must mention one thing, that if one tunes in this positive energy, constructive energy, and starts believing in oneself, and starts believing in this what one wants to do, and sees where one wants to be, or even one sees that one is already there. So this is the fake it before you make it. It's actually very true and very smart thing.
Given the personal reality.
Because then all of a sudden you're changing completely your
state of mind. Your energy.
You cultivate as well a growth mindset, and then in the end, however it works, this is a mystery still, but the doors are opening for you.
Yes.
And this is incredible. You think about something, you're positive, and then all of a sudden you get that call, or you get that offer, because you believe it. Yes, I am going there, and I'm there, I belong there.
Because you have purpose.
You have purpose, you have that belief you leave this belief, like, who knows, maybe I'm not so worth, you leave this doubt.
And there's actually some science in that as well, because I mean, we don't know many things about this reality, but we know that there is a sort of a field, or some call it whatever, ether or divine or whatever, that
unified field or whatever,
the energy that we basically live in, and if you have the right electromagnetic signature that's radiating from your own thoughts or energy, then this is indeed coming back.
And it doesn't matter if people see it as an arrogant thing, or they look at you and say, oh, why somebody is so self-confident. No, just do this, have the courage to do what you find important and the way you find right, and don't care 1 minute what other people think about it. It's very liberating and actually pushes one forward.
But be true to yourself, or one should be really honestly, I think, I say I think because of course I don't know, but in my life it actually, the experience was such that if I was very true to myself in that sense, that I really knew I had to do that because I had a good explanation for myself, and I knew even if everybody disagreed with me around, and I knew I was right to do this, then stuff happened. I don't know how, but it must have something to do with the field, or however you call it, because there's so many things like in this tiny band of frequency, what we call reality or a visible light or whatever.
Yeah, we see very little, in fact. Yes.
Who knows what is there, what we don't see, and I think it has to do with this. This good energy is what finds related good energy in wherever. Good energy finds good energy, and it multiplies, because actually the sinus waves of the frequencies, they're fitting. They are coherent, and they are coming together and actually expanding, because
and
it fits.
Here I think we have to say that good energy, it doesn't mean that, okay, I meet someone, he's so cute to me, he has such a nice energy, and then I look for these kind of people only. This is not what we mean by good energy. Good energy means this base that you can build on, construct your future or your life on. And this sometimes can bring you to some maybe not so happy realizations, but it's positive because in the end it has a positive outcome.
Yes, it's openness, it's kind of relaxed, it's joy, love, flow, all these things. So if one starts looking for these things, one actually sees them. If you don't start looking for them, you will never see them.
No, and it's actually a lot of that.
Yeah.
I mentioned before that some musicians have this tendency to think too much actually about themselves, in that sense that they believe nobody cares about me and nobody cares about what I'm doing, nobody cares about my music and so on. There is a book which I read a couple of years ago. It's called The Subtle Art of Not Giving a by Mark Manson. And the author articulates an idea that the world isn't centered around individual concerns, through the concept that people are generally not preoccupied with others' lives. In other words, he emphasizes that it's not that nobody likes you or nobody cares about your music, rather people simply do not spend much time thinking about you in the first place. And this is a very eye-opening perspective, which is meant to actually reduce the pressure individuals, every one of us, often feel regarding others' opinions, and to encourage a bit more, let's say, realistic understanding how a society works.
Yeah.
So in other words, it's okay, that you're right that nobody cares about you, because it's just nobody spends much time thinking of you. So if you have a failure or something stupid happens to you, or you're embarrassed at some point because you didn't do something the way you envisioned, nobody cares about that. Yes, somebody might say something, but nobody really cares. And if you do something great as well, some people will care, but majority will not. So there's no need to be frustrated because of that.
Yeah, because people have simply a lot on their plates and
Exactly.
too little time, most of them, because life is so busy nowadays, especially when you're swamped by all these, you know.
And you know, he puts that this subject in such a plain language, actually, in this book, that it made me realize that actually this is a revelation, and this actually leads to a bigger emotional freedom. Because
Yes.
saying, okay, yeah, well, yeah, then let's, you know, we should actually focus then on what truly matters to me or to us generally, without being, again, overly concerned what other people think or what other people's perception is.
Yeah. For me, this is closely linked to the personal reality, of course, because if you're aware of that everybody lives in his or her own personal reality, then you have the power over your personal reality.
Exactly.
So you can create all the energies that you need, and magically they will bring the right people in your life. They will bring the right circumstances in your life if you do it right. I mean, if you do the energy thing right. And again, as you said, the other guy with his personal reality might not care about your personal reality, but it doesn't matter, because you can do it for yourself, and this is nice because that was liberating for me to actually, because everybody at the beginning is like, oh yeah, well, what will that critic say, or what, oh, will I be able to do that because I need to pay my bills, and everybody has that kind of fears. It's fear. But
fear.
Once you know that it's all in your personal reality, and that you actually have the power with good energy to change that all by yourself. That's amazing.
I have one quote from this book, and actually, funny enough, or maybe not, it perfectly fits to this, what you just said. And it says, "There is a simple realization from which all personal improvement and growth emerges. This is the realization that we, individually, are responsible for everything in our lives, no matter the external circumstances. We don't always control what happens to us, but we always control how we interpret what happens to us, as well as how we respond."
That's amazing, because I didn't read that book. But,
I know.
But yes, but this is absolutely right. Because at the end, and that's why I was earlier saying about this kind of core source, raw material of music that is so important to me. Because that is also connected to the personal reality. Once I knew I can shape my personal reality, I knew that it's only up to me whether I feel good, bad, or whatever about this. So what made me feel good was actually to look for that truth. You know, that's just my way of getting balance, right? Everybody will have their own way. But in order to find your own way, you need to be aware that it's only you, only your personal reality.
And you need to believe in yourself. You need to keep yourself in this good energy. Surround yourself with people that you actually feel, I feel uplifted after this or that meeting.
Yes.
It brought me something.
Yes. We have learned that the hard way as well in our life, that if something doesn't feel right at the beginning, it will not be good.
No. Doesn't matter how you convince yourself.
Even if it brings positive things at first, but if it doesn't feel right, like positive things meaning
your belief that it will lead to something positive.
Yeah, but even if it means, okay, you get a gig or you get a bigger whatever sum of money of some kind, and you think, oh, it worked, let's stick to it. If it doesn't feel right, it will collapse, it will go bad. And this is also energy.
It is also energy, and one has to be very honest to oneself, how one really feels about not only the sometimes outcome of things, but in general.
It's really about, and I hate to say the word, because almost every episode we say awareness is important, but it's really about that awareness about the personal reality and about these kind of frequency energy things like brain waves, heart rate, whatever these things, you don't really think about them, right? Because the body works without you thinking. You don't have to think in order to make your heart beat, it just beats. But once you are getting aware of these things, especially in your life setting, in the people you meet, in the things you do, and how you react to things, how they react to you and stuff, you start feeling more and seeing more, and this definitely happened to me. And since we are now very selective in terms of people that we surround ourselves with or that we do something with, this is just improved the life, improved the energy, and there's just our personal realities are good at the moment. And
it's hard at first because you have to cut all the people that you have to be very honest to yourself who is bringing you actually bad energy in your life, putting aside their words and beautiful phrases that they have.
Yeah, it's hard at first, especially when some ties are there that you know, business-wise or whatever, that you think, or fear again. You think, if I cut this tie, I will not have this or that. It's again fear.
And nothing good comes out of fear. And I think you talked about the body here. And there is such a thing that the body, whether something bad is happening to you or negative, or you just imagine that it's happening to you, like I will do this or that, or something bad will happen to me. Your body doesn't recognize whether it is really happening to you or you're just thinking about it. It tunes to this negative energy the same way, whether it's real or it's just imagined.
Exactly. Many much smarter people than I am talk about this, that we have the reptile brain, or however it's called, that we are
not the whole brain, hopefully. No, but there, yes.
The very old brain, so to speak. We don't change...
Part of the brain, let's put it this way.
Yes, we don't change that quickly in an evolutionary lens. So meaning the fight or flight mode that we needed to survive thousands of years ago, we don't have these life-threatening events around us. But as you said, if you are fearful about something, you activate that system nevertheless, and then it's just harmful.
And then you find yourself stuck in this chain of bad situations or some negative things that are happening to you.
Not only the energy that you put into the field is attracting fitting energies, but also the chemicals in the brain, you're getting used to that, the brain getting used to that, because stress, anger, cortisol levels, adrenaline, all these things. While if you have joy, love, and flow, you have oxytocin and endorphins and all these things. I mean, I'm not a specialist, but good chemicals, so to speak, versus not so good for you if they are in excess, right? And therefore, it's just so important that you have the power. One has the power, and people don't know that because they think, only somebody else is responsible whether I get this or that or this. It's not true.
Or this, what I as well said before, that we rather, I don't know, somebody goes to a competition, or if we're talking about musicians, right, or has a concert and he thinks that he's not in charge at all, or he tries not to think about the outcome too much, in that sense that he doesn't really believe in himself. Yeah, he might say some whatever he says, but... or she. But deep down, this person is a bit stuck in this, I rather don't think too positively about that because I might be punished by life. This is what I said before about this, how we are programmed by the society, by our raising.
Yes. Because you don't, these kind of things, you have to get to a certain age, some do never, but to realize certain things. Imagine now you would know
or not, I would say one has to have certain kind of experiences, because this comes with certain kind of experiences. But
you still usually need time to have these experiences. So imagine a world where young people would grow up with such kind of knowledge. Then you can start creating your own reality much earlier, and usually those
some
people...
do.
Exactly, and those people are also more successful.
Yes.
And when we talk about this balanced energy, that good energy which is balanced, then of course I can't help but making the bridge to what I really like to talk about. This is this natural music making, because only in that balance good things happen. It doesn't matter if you're doing that when you're sad or happy, like in that sense, in mood-wise. But if your energy is balanced, then you have the balance in your playing.
Yes.
And if you're not balanced, you don't have it. And by balance, I mean, for example, if you plan your rubato, and if you say A, you have to say B. If you wait here that amount of time, you have to wait here the other amount of time in order to make it balanced, to make it coherent. And that's very much connected to heart rate variability, and which is rubato, in fact. and all that. So if you are balanced, you play better.
I think in this episode we mentioned coherence, the word coherence, a couple of times. Maybe we should be more clear what we mean here.
Well, there's institutions like the Heart Math Institute that study these things, but what is important for us is to know that the heart really radiates energy. And that's why also it's quite common to put your hand on your heart when you know things, or it feels like that the heart knows while the brain or the conscious brain just rationalizes things, and you think you know, but...
And this is what we call intuition is actually in our heart. And we often understand heart in such a trivial way. Oh, we are so emotional and it comes from our heart.
And it just pumps our blood.
Yes, not this is what, but we have to be aware that the heart is being created before the brain, and the heart has neurons. So the first neurons in the body are actually the ones in the heart, not in the brain.
And therefore the heart can communicate and have so much power over our systems and bodies and energy field that it's, I think, this was for me lately the most, lately the last years, the most amazing realization that actually it comes from that energy source that not
you
only
can actually as well, on top
blood,
of that, you can think with your heart.
And that it influences so many things, and without us knowing consciously. But once one becomes aware of that, one can tap into that energy sort of, even if one doesn't know exactly how it works, because I don't claim to know. But I feel that it's making such a difference. You just trust, you have trust, you don't doubt, you know, and the heart knows.
And it creates, in fact, lots of good energy.
Yes. And it lets you go through all the hard and difficult parts in life that, if one really thinks about that long enough, they are not really that difficult. I know this is a stupid thing to say for somebody who is now really in a tough moment in their lives. But at the end of the day, this personal reality realization and the heart, the strength of the heart, can lead us through anything. And if we are just doing the right things for ourselves, then one can change one's life and one's happiness level entirely. And with it, often, the whole world in some way.